How's it going, everybody, and welcome to this special episode of the Lone Star Halo podcast. Me, Fernando, the Lone Star Halo, joined here by Frankie Kazarian, the king of TNA, Todd Fox, the king of Angels postgame. So I guess I'm just the court jester, but we're going to talk about Angels baseball, and I'm sure about some Blue Jays as well, coming up.
One, two, three, go! Got the news every week. Walk-offs, strikeouts, who's making a name? Who's in the clutch and who's taking the blame? Lone Star Halo, fucking baseball, here we go. Big hats, bad calls, who's gonna rise and who's gonna fall?
Hey, welcome into another episode of the Lone Star Halo. The host of the show, Lone Star himself, and myself, Todd Fox, joined by Frankie. Fernando, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing well. It's fun to hop on the horse again, and it's always great to have Frankie on.
Absolutely. And like you mentioned before, we're going to talk some World Series. We're going to talk some Angels, and probably that's where we should hit first with the World Series, man. A phenomenal one, no matter what side you're on, or if you're a Dodger hater or not, it still was a tremendous World Series. So, Fernando, do you want to throw over the first questions to our man here, the current king of the TNA?
Yeah. Phenomenal was definitely the best way to describe it. They know a little bit about that at TNA. If it ain't P1, they don't want none.
There you go.
Frankie, how excited was your wife specifically?
Man, it was, she was thrilled. Look, and I obviously watch the Angels every day, but we watch the Jays as well. And towards early parts of summer, the Angels, as they've done the last few years, kind of fall off. So of course I'm always still watching, but the Jays were very much in the hunt. So it was like, okay, cool. I can have an invested interest in them and still follow my Angels, but also follow this team that has real playoff aspirations and stuff. So it was a fun season. For those, I think the Blue Jays made a lot. The one thing they may have lost the World Series, but I think they won the hearts of a lot of baseball fans. A lot of fans seemed very unfamiliar with the team, and people thought, I guess blissfully ignorantly enough, that the Dodgers are just going to like walk over them. And the Jays proved that they are like both sides of the ball for real. An unbelievable clutch team. Unfortunately, it came up short in the most clutch moments, but we were heartbroken. But you know what? We take solace in the fact that they have still a very, very young, really talented team. And it was just a fun season to watch. And as much as it pains me to say, it was a great series because I have so much visceral disgust in my heart for anything that is Dodgers. But it's, I mean, probably the greatest World Series I've watched in my life. I mean, if not the greatest, it's up there.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they say that baseball is a game of inches, and to say that was true this postseason or this World Series specifically is an understatement. I mean, think about how perfectly that ball in Game 6 had to land in that gap. If it literally would have bounced a centimeter forward, because metric system, we would have been talking probably about the Blue Jays probably walking it off. I mean, they would have made it at least interesting in Game 6. And then Game 7, Isaiah Connor-Falefa making a fundamental mistake with not taking a big enough lead and also not sliding head first into home there. I mean,
there's so many what ifs, man. It just And like you said, it's a matter of inches. I know they talked to Kiner Falefa, and he said that they wanted him close to the base so they wouldn't get doubled up in the event of like a quick line drive to like Will Smith or I'm sorry, to Muncie or anybody. It's one of those things. And you even go back to the call and what was it, game 3 or game 4, whichever the one where the home plate ump didn't make the really obvious strike call, and they got doubled up. Like that was just weird. That was weird. That probably cost them a run. What was that game 3, the 18 inning game? That, there you go. Jays could have, had another run. It's just, there's so many what ifs. And like, the ball getting stuck, but not stuck, just kind of there. And like, there's a lot of like, if you're a Jays fan, you could question a lot of the calls. But the reality is the Jays also had opportunities and they just couldn't get guys in. They had guys on second base late in the game twice in that game 7. They just couldn't get them in. And it's just I honestly, because I'm an Angel fan first, my heart does break for Jays fans. Cause again, they're playing for the entire country of Canada.
Yep.
We got 5 teams here in California and we're always, we're fighting each other all year. We got, Dodgers, Angels, Padres, Giants, A's, they got one team in the whole country. So like the burden those players probably, felt like letting their country down. That's my heart breaks for them, man. But they have nothing to hang their heads about. What an incredible season. They'll be back. I think they'll be back. And it's a great World Series, man. I really wish it wasn't a game of inches sometimes, man. And one of those calls would have gone the Jays' way,
Well, that's all it would have took. I mean, if you think about it, like that play you were talking about, if Kike Hernandez doesn't put up his hands, because that's at the discretion of the umpire to make that call, whether or not it's not playable. And if they don't put up their hands and attempt for it, at least one run will score. They'll halt the other runner, but those 2 runners would have scored to tie it. And like Fernando said, you would have had the walk off, the Kiner play. It just seems like that had to be a perfect throw by Rojas. And then of all things, what was tough for me to see was, I don't know if you saw the interview with Hoffman, but he took it all upon himself. And he said, he messed up right there. But that's what happens when you have such a super team. You focus so much on your Will Smiths, your Betts, your Otanis, your Freemans, and then a Rojas comes up and you're thinking, okay, I could get away with a slider or a couple of these pitches, and then bam, he connects. And I got to ask you this though: does the Dodger team currently remind you of the Yankees of like 96 through 98, where they just seem to have that it factor and things would happen when they needed it?
100%. It's, not only do they remind me of that, they remind me of most, I'm not going to say they're a dynasty because they're not yet, but most really, really good squads. Like, back to like the New England Patriot dynasty, the 49ers team of the 80s and early 90s, the Cowboys in the early 90s, any team that's got those superstars and has that consistently good record, it seems like the ball just bounces their way, man. I don't know what it is. But yes, very much. It's just like, it's just one of those weird sports things, I think, like it just, I don't know if it's a momentum thing, if it's, the sports gods like blessing them. But they very much do seem like that, like those 96 Yankees. And going back to that Rojas home run, that's another thing it always seems in World Series is it's the guy you don't expect. It's never the Otanis or the Bettses, or the Vladdies or the Bichettes, even those guys, came up big, obviously, but like in those giant moments, it's always the guy that the Rojas, the guy that, maybe didn't, what he had is he hadn't had a hit in a month, I think. Like, like it was like, it's another one of those weird baseball. That's why we love baseball, because it's just, I mean, imagine how that kid feels.
Unsung hero.
Yeah, exactly. Like, and I mean, now that I'm a couple of days removed, I can like really let my hatred go, and I can, appreciate the World Series for what it was. Because while I was watching it, man, like, I got my wife with me, and I'm just pulling for this, for this team, and Not a Dodger fan at all. Not a fan of the Dodgers fan base at all. So very much, intense and in the moment. But, a few days removed and, I take myself away from it. It's like, you can't. They're a great squad, despite the fact that, they bought a World Series yet again. Yeah, man, it's the greatest game in the world. And I think this World Series proved it,
Yeah, baseball's the only the only sport where you could have that type of situation. You know what I mean? There's no kind of other game that can give that type of anticipation. I mean, I'm not a Blue Jay fan. I'm certainly a Dodger hater. Yeah. But I was watching Game 7 completely invested in every pitch. It was hard not to be. Now, let me ask you this. I know you probably, you and your wife probably had that hope that, the big hit was coming. And, Vlad Guerrero made it interesting there at the very end of the game. But for you, what moment, and maybe for both of you, I don't know if it happened at the same time, what was kind of that moment where you're like, the Dodgers are winning this? I know what it was for me, and I think Todd had the exact same moment.
Probably that Rojas home run.
Okay.
I honestly, up until then, was like, it's going to be poetic because they had, if you remember, it was 8-9-1 coming up.
Yeah.
And it was like the last out is going to be Ohtani. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, I'm telling my wife, I go, Ohtani's going to strike out. And that's going to be the picture. Ohtani's striking out with his helmet flying off of his head and every fan behind home plate with their hands. I said, that's going to be it. I said, that's poetry. That's beautiful. That's baseball. I was like, I had convinced myself that was going to be the case because I didn't expect anything out of hitters number 8 and 9.
Yeah.
They got the first out and I'm like, here we go. And when that happened, I was just like, something was just like, man, again, I don't know if it's a weird momentum thing, but I'm just like, I'm still like, it's okay. We got last ups. It's all right. It's all right. But I'm like, it just kind of that took the wind out of my sails, I think, more than anything. What was it for you?
For me, it was the second that they put Pages in the game. They moved him to center field, right? That was Andy Pages?
Yeah.
And he traveled all the way to left field. That was left field proper. That was not left center field.
Yeah.
And he essentially knocked Kike Hernandez out. Catching that ball. The second he made that catch, he must have traveled 100 and some feet. He had no business catching that ball. And they ran into each other. I was like, this game's over. The Dodgers won.
because
that happened. So that happened in the bottom of the ninth, right?
Was it the bottom of the ninth? Was it the 8th?
I think it was the 8th inning. They had the
it was the 8th. So that happened first. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So that happened. Yeah. Okay.
Because that would have broken
those
wide
two
open.
things. Yeah. Like. Yeah, that was another one. It was just like, man, like, again, like you were saying earlier, everything is, he probably doesn't catch that ball 9 out of 10 times.
Well, because I remember Fernando texted, he goes, boy, that was a big play right there. And I was thinking to myself when I saw the replay, I'm like, that straight up looks like out of the movie Angels in the Outfield. Like, it looked like he was being divinely lifted to that ball. I'm like, bro, that's just not fair. I mean, that usually, I mean, like, I think you've seen a couple catches that Toronto's made. The one where the guy fell down and still got up and made the catch in center field earlier this year. That was a crazy catch. That's like home field advantage. But this is on the road. This is a guy who's not hitting anything. He in there for defensive purposes, and he comes through, and it's like, and then when Rojas hit that homer, man, like, I tried to be optimistic, but I'm telling myself the whole time they're going to lose because I felt like a reverse Mitch Williams right there, Joe Carter. I wanted so bad for it to be a Toronto walk-off. You don't understand. Like, as a Dodger hater, I wanted to see, because like when the Raptors won a few years ago in basketball, I was so happy for Toronto because they haven't won a Stanley Cup in so long. Yeah. You haven't had the Blue Jays win since 93. So they finally got a chip up there. And like you said, the entire nation was going for the Raptors. And it was again with the Blue Jays, and like the Dodgers are guaranteed to be back there next year, or at least in the mix for the title. It's not a guarantee for the Jays, and they had to do a lot of things, and a lot of things had to bounce their way to get there. So it's like, oh my God, just seeing the fans like that, bro, it was so gut wrenching.
Yeah. Again, anytime, a team loses a game 7 at home, it's brutal. But again, we're talking an entire country.
Yep.
This is not just an isolated city. This is an entire country. And it's just again, my heart breaks for them. Again, they're one of the other team. There's a couple teams I also keep my eye on in baseball that I like, but obviously I'm an Angel guy first. But it was just super sad. But again, nothing to hang their heads about. What an incredible season. I think they'll certainly be back in the mix. I'm not saying they're going to the World Series, but they'll certainly be back in the mix in the AL East. And we'll see what happens with Bichette in the offseason. If they can keep the nucleus of that squad together, they could be competitive for quite a long time, I think.
Oh, one last thing, if I could, real quick, Fernando. I just was going to ask you because before it escapes us on this Toronto stuff, we go to the Angels. Dude, the game 3, how were you and your wife in that 18-inning affair?
So we she went to bed. I also went to bed. I had the game on my phone, and then it I don't know, probably 13th inning, I turned the game off and I started watching something else on my phone, and I'm in bed and I'm tired, and I had the MLB
alerts.
Yes, exactly. Just following that, just because I was almost fatigued. I was just I don't want to watch any more baseball. I just want to see, Jays win or Dodgers win. And then, that lasted for about an inning. I'm like, crap, I got to watch, so I just kind of kept going back and forth. And I was literally about to fall asleep, looking at my phone. I see the Freeman home run. I'm like, oh, damn it.
Yeah.
Exhausted. I'm like, I couldn't imagine being there. I know it's a World Series, but that would have really, my current age and my patience level, I don't know if I could have stayed, that long at a baseball game. It was exhausting. I'm honestly, I'm kind of fatigued. I'm glad baseball's over, because it seemed like it was going if it does, the old saying, if you don't go away, how can I miss you? As much as I love baseball, it's man, this postseason and the games are just going on and on and on. Now it's over. Cool. We can watch some football, put it behind. I can get excited again, come spring.
That's fair. I went to an Angels game in 2015, I think it was, when it was 19 innings and it was Boston.
Oh,
that was a marathon.
Stayed the whole time?
We left in the 17th inning because we were living in San Diego, so we still had an hour.
Oh, you still have a 2-hour hike or an hour and a half hike? Yeah.
Well, see, the thing about game 3, though, you actually had sober Dodger fans because remember they cut everybody off in the 7th inning, so you had 11 innings of soberness.
Oh man, how they managed that? My God,
I don't know.
Did they? I wonder if I'm sure they didn't make an exception. I was wondering about concessions, because how much do they stock? Even regular food and beverage, they probably had to be running low at some point.
I think. Well, from what I know, when we go to extra inning games, they do run food as long as they can until certain items go out. But I know alcohol for sure is off at 7. So
Good.
yeah, I mean,
especially at Dodger Stadium, good.
Yeah. Maybe consider the 5th inning.
Yeah, a bunch of animals. Yeah. Man.
So maybe before we talk, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was just saying, that's those are things I'm thinking about, and things people don't normally think about, the poor grounds crew.
Yeah.
These dudes gotta these dudes gotta get the field ready for the night and then prep it for the next morning. And again, the vendors and all the people that work in the stadium and people don't take into account all of that. That was a rough, 24-hour stretch for that entire crew.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I wonder how much of that had to, especially knowing what we know about number 17. He's so he's all about his routine. I wonder how much
regimented.
I wonder how much of that game 3 ending so late ruined his game 4 start, because he got lit up pretty good in game 4, but he got lit up pretty decently in game 7, gave up 4 runs. Yep. So
yeah, I mean that could very well have something to do with it. And I mean, look at Jays weren't, other than that game 3, really, game 2 a little bit too. The Jays bats were on fire. Jays for the most part, won all their victories were dominant wins, whereas the Dodger wins were, one-run games other than that game too. So like, I mean, it's one of those things. Jays almost outplayed him in every area of the game except for the one that counts, and
Yeah.
it is what it is. We got to live, especially me being a SoCal. I got another year of Dodger fans, basking in the fact that they're world champions. It is what it is, man. It's my lot in life. I've grown accustomed to it. But my only tweet, I was gonna put something really nasty out, but I just went, all right, Angels World Series champions next year.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's one of those, as an Angel fan, long time as we all have been here, like we were able to, they've had a decade of dominance, but really outside that 2020 ring pop, that's all they had. And I still didn't count one since 87. So I was okay with that, or 88. Yep. And then when they doubled up the last couple of years, especially with Ohtani, it's like, man, it has been difficult. I'm just hoping that something changes next year. But
I mean, at least we swept them this year. We can say they never beat the Angels.
Hey, that's true. We swept the champs. How about that?
That's it. I mean, you got to take the victories you can get, when you're an Angel fan at this point. So like, I take solace in that fact, because I know that bothers Dodger fans. They can talk all the nonsense they want and rub it in our faces, but I guarantee you that bothers them. The fact that they could beat the Angels that they constantly make fun of and talk trash on. I know that bothers them, so I rejoice in that. So I'm going to let it bother them.
Well, see, that's a good heel in you coming out.
Oh, yeah, 100%. Right. There you go.
100%. Yeah.
The Angels have something to learn about the Blue Jays. I mean, the Blue Jays had a losing season last year, right? If memory serves correctly. And now look where they are. They were literal inches away from winning the World Series against, clearly the best team in baseball. So there's no exact shame in that. And the Blue Jays have done it the right way. A lot of those guys were homegrowns, and the guys that they did plug in via free agency, they truly brought in to be part of the core. I mean, George Springer was signed to be part of the core for him. Yeah. The Angels have always made the mistakes of just trying to get these pieces and trying to buy a team. It really doesn't work unless you're the Dodgers. When I was growing up, it worked for the Yankees, but nowadays you kind of have to develop your team from within. That's how most teams win. So hopefully the Angels can learn a thing or two about from the Blue Jays. And look what the Blue Jays are doing with Rogers Center. The player development facilities they have are now top notch. I mean, their weight room's incredible. They have a freaking room for the family. They have an infant room, a feeding room. These are things that attract players to your market, and winning does that too. And the Angels could really learn a thing or two from these organizations because we have outdated facilities, outdated ownership, just about outdated everything.
Agreed. I mean, and it's come out in recent years, a lot of former Angel players and visiting teams saying that, really, really dogging the Angels facility. So it's, those aren't just sour grapes. Those are facts, and it's like, and again, you look at the culture that they've created in Toronto and some of these other, stadiums and cities that have, really top-notch state-of-the-art facilities. It creates that, like you said, you can't just buy a team. You can buy all the great players, but if you don't have that chemistry, you're not going anywhere. And a lot of that starts in the weight room, in the clubhouse, in the practice facilities, all of that, I mean, we can talk about this for, but it all starts at the top, and you guys know who I'm talking about. That's where the culture starts, you kind of take the lead of the person writing the checks. And unfortunately for the Angels, that hasn't changed yet, but yes, to your point, they very much could learn something from the Blue Jays. That squad turned it around in 1 year. So it can be done. That's the blueprint. That's the model right there. It's there for the taking, if the Angels choose, to use that.
And to me, playing off of both what you guys said is just the fact that, they have a young core that can hit with a proper instructor. I think this year, nailing the Maddox signing with the pitching side, I think that's going to help the pitching side, but getting a good, reputable hitting coach who will go back to the basics and get these young kids flourishing. The bullpen didn't pitch all that bad last year. I think they were overtaxed and he had injuries, but that comes from not having elite starting pitching or even starting pitching that you're guaranteed to get 5 or 6.
Yeah.
And I think where the Angels, this is just my opinion, but if we were to sign a few guys like the Scherzers and the Gossmans, like Toronto did, to or like this year Pavetta, if we could, or Kane, like Fernando's mentioned before, I mean, that would drastically turn around the rotation. Then you have Yusei and you have Soriano, and you could have someone fight for that 5th spot. I mean, starting pitching makes a difference, man. When you don't have to have Yusei and Soriano have to man the 1s and 2s, having 3s and 4s, they'll be better right there. I mean, you can have this team hypothetically contending, right?
Yeah, and like like even two quality starting pitchers would do wonders for us. Guys like you said that can consistently go into the 5th, 6th, even 7th inning, so our bullpen's not wiped out every day. I do, the Mike Maddox hire was one of the few things that I actually got genuinely excited about. Like, okay, that's good.
Yep.
That dude's track record is incredible. He comes from great pitching pedigree, and he's done wonders with the Rangers. Just a brilliant baseball IQ, brilliant pitching IQ. That's big. So that's one of those, the Angels always dangle that carrot for me. They'll do something stupid and make me just throw my hands in the air, and then they'll do something like this, and it'll pique my interest, and it'll get that, get that sliver of hope. And I'm like, and it happens all the time. But that's one good thing that, in this last week, I was like, cool. That's, there's that little bit of optimism that can, come creeping back, come to the spring. And, again, we sign a couple good free agents, get some pitching. Who knows what's going to happen with the hitting coach? Again, there's pieces that can be put into play that, like I told you guys last year, or maybe earlier this year when we talked before the season started, or when the season started, just to be competitive, man. My expectations aren't high for this team. Just be competitive. If they were just in the conversation in September, that's good enough for me for now.
Yeah.
We'll get there. Yes, what the Jays did, going 0 to hero, is awesome. I don't expect that out of the Angels, but just to be competitive would win me and a lot of fans over.
Yeah. I think because there's a lot of fringe Dodger fans that are just jumping on the bandwagon, as there always is with a title contender or champion. But it's seriously, like I was telling Fernando earlier today, I was like, man, going to Disneyland last few times, or even downtown Disney or in the Anaheim area, there's just so much Dodger stuff there that never was. And it's just hard as Angels fans, because we know that was our little piece of the pie, and now, you got a lot of Dodger fans walking around, and now they're very much vocal where, you could always get them with, well, we're not in the playoffs, but at least we don't choke,
Yeah, so, right. Yeah. And like this, living here, it's, every sporting goods store you go to, it's, finally the Rams are getting love. It used to just be Raider stuff.
Yeah.
Even when they moved to Vegas, but it's good because I'm a Rams fan also, but it's, it's Dodgers, Rams, Chargers, Lakers, obviously, very, very little Angels. And I remember after the 2002 season, for about a decade there, Angels gear was pretty prominent.
Yeah.
But it's, it's, yeah. And again, you got, the diehards, but you got those fair weather fans. So there's a lot of Angel fans had our bandwagon was pretty crowded too for a while.
Correct.
Yeah,
but
feels like a different.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. But you just don't, in the store, you just don't. It's not even like they have a small. So there's nothing.
Mm-hmm.
The Dodgers. Padres too. You see some Padres stuff. They've been competitive the last few years, but Angel stuff is just non-existent.
Yeah. So I flew out there for a softball tournament in September.
Yep.
I think I remember, we were talking about that.
Yep.
And after the game, I ran to, we were in Mission Viejo area. I ran to a Marshall's or Ross, TJ Maxx. I told my girlfriend, hey, I'm going to go to the stores, get some Angel stuff. Because obviously living here in Texas, very seldom do I ever see any Angel stuff out here. Once in a blue moon, you'll find something at a Ross. But it was finally my third store I went to. I finally found a single Angels t-shirt. And I was like, what? Like I'm
That's
in
Mission
Mission
VA.
Viejo.
That's Angels country, man. Like that's
Yeah.
you're talking.
Yeah.
You're deep in the heart of Orange County, man. You're not in LA County. You're
Yeah,
down
if I
there.
was in Cerritos or something, maybe I
Right,
get it. You
right.
know, you're kind of that's where the
Yeah.
lines get blurred. But yeah, I mean, Mission Viejo, you would imagine that's probably like, you know, the Angels bread and butter there. You get a lot of your corporate customers are probably in that area in
Sure.
Irvine and
Yep.
all that. But yeah, it was really hard to find. I was very disappointed.
But I mean, again, like, you know, if you're a realtor, a retailer, I'm sorry, if you're in the retail business, you stock what people are buying,
Yeah, it's fair.
and people just, you know, people are going to be buying, you know, Dodger merchandise as opposed to Angels, you know. So yeah, again, that's just part of, you know, part of the culture we need to change. And again, 2, 3, 5 winning seasons, competitive seasons, successful seasons, you'll start to see that shift. But it just, you need some type of jumping off point. You know, it's like, I mean, it's we're talking a decade now, right? We're talking a
Yeah.
decade of,
Mhm.
so like it's like it's time to, like, either shit or get off the pot. I don't know if I could swear on this, but I'm sorry.
No,
I
you
just
can.
did.
Yeah, you're good.
But like, it's one of those, yeah, one of those situations where it's like, okay, did you have, that decade? Let's forget about that. Let's move on, because, we don't want to, slowly seep into the doldrums and be one of those teams where it's like, 23 years since a World Series appearance, 33 years, and it just keep
Mhm.
going and going. Like, the time to change is now.
Yeah, I mean, the Angels it's definitely a toxic relationship, right? You're a member of the good times and you're like, well, baby, things are going to get good one day. You know what I mean? We just got to hang in there. And, you're hoping that the love's still there. And it's just, it gets very, very hard. You know what I mean? It gets very, very taxing. I joked last year with Todd because in 2023, the Rangers won. Obviously, I'm here deep in the heart of Rangers country. So I had to deal with all the 2023 world champion flags and the advertisements. And I joked with Todd last year, like, well, now you got to deal with that. It's your turn.
Yeah.
But now Todd's doubling down. I really don't think the Rangers are going to win in 26. So,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, man. It's just, I miss that because, going to the games, again, all my life, but like specifically during and after that 2002 season. And like, you guys remember that, I mean, they were putting 40,000 people in that stadium every night.
Yeah.
It was just electric. They were competitive. There was a real vibe in Anaheim, like the streets lined with Angels banners, and just, there was an energy in that stadium. And it was, fans now, like my son is just turned 13 and he's been going to Angel games his whole life. And yes, they're still fun and we have a great time, but like, all he's known is this version of the Angels.
Yeah.
Like, I'm telling him, like, man, like, it's like this place used to be rocking. Like, it's still awesome. It's still fun, but like, there's just not that kinetic energy that there was. And like, I want that back,
Yeah, I mean, that was tough. Like, I remember those or mid to late 2000s there before 2010. We'd go to a game on a Wednesday. It was tough getting a ticket. You'd have to sit in
Sure.
the 500 level, and it was packed. Like you said,
Yep.
it was sold out. It was competitive games. You never thought you were down enough. I remember going to a game where the Angels are down 7-1 in the third inning, and they came back and won 9-8.
Yeah.
They just had that electrifying atmosphere. And then when Frankie was there, all those, I was there for his record-setting save. The place went nuts. So it felt like a playoff atmosphere. And like you said, there's a whole generation that does not know that. And when I run into the young kids when we're doing events at the stadium, that's their biggest thing. They like the Angels. Their girlfriends or friends come as as a thing to do, but a lot of them are there as far as like they want the team to win. Like they're but it's just not like the majority. You know what I mean? Like we have hardcore fans, but they'll bring their friends, but mostly they're like 1 out of 3, you know what I mean? Whereas before everyone was into it. It was not just a thing to do, it was something to be excited for.
Yeah. Funny you talking about Frankie just reminded me, because for a while there we had such badass closers. I remember being at a game, and if you guys remember Troy Percival's entrance walk-up music or I guess I call it entrance music from wrestling. It was a song called "Keep Away" by Godsmack.
Yep.
And dude, like I'm a big metal guy, I'm a big Godsmack guy. And when that riff, I was at a game one night, it was packed, and as soon as the Angels made their last out of the bottom of the eighth, they cranked that music, and the announcer just like coming into pitch number was 47, whatever it is, Troy
40.
Percival, and it was like a wrestling. It was like
Yeah.
I got goosebumps thinking about it. And Troy Percival, the place just popped, and he would always sprint until he got to the infield dirt, and the play. It was I felt like it was a wrestling like a wrestling match. It was unbelievable. Like It was like a rock show or like a wrestling. It was just like this massive pop, and his music's playing while he's throwing warm up pitches, and everybody's on their feet. And just like high, it was so cool, man. Like I just want to see that. I want to experience that as a fan again.
100%. I mean, there's different variations now where back then you kind of wish they would dim the lights how they do it now and shoot on fire, because that would have been cool for Percy too. But
all the theatrics and the technology is so much more advanced, even where it was 10, 15 years ago. But just even that, like that image that I just spoke about is just burned in my mind. Like I'll never forget that. Just so cool. So glad I experienced that.
Oh yeah, and I'll tell you one real quick is when they would play the Green Onion song to do the out of town school lineup. They'd play that song, the old school song. And then once they announced the other lineup in the picture, all of a sudden it went to Enter Sandman. And like everyone I get goosebumps thinking about that, because then they would show like the logo coming out, the lightning hitting the halo, and man, that was cool. Good time.
Even at the beginning when they do the Calling All Angels, when they do the Angel history video, you guys know what I'm talking about?
Yeah,
like
before.
But that's like right before the game. Like that's just like man, I find myself still when I watch that, there's like I get like weirdly emotional just when they show the pictures of like Gene Mock and Gene Autry and Brian Downing and Wally Joyner and just and Don Sutton, all these guys that I watched growing up, and like all the way up to Vladdy and Howie Kendrick and Trout and all that. It's just like that's one thing they still do right. Like that video still is like that's like a cool little love letter to all like the longtime Angel fans. That little video.
Absolutely.
Yeah. The best part is they took Artie Moran out of the video.
Did they really? That's awesome.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah, they don't show him getting doused with champagne anymore.
Good. That's good. Yeah, maybe they do listen to their fans. Who knows? Yeah.
Yeah, it was the day that he got. It was last year, right, Todd? For opening day, they showed him on the screen. Yeah.
Between him and Rendon, I don't know who got booed more.
Yeah, that's fair.
Oh God.
Speaking of opening day, Todd, we really need you need to consider coming to Houston next year for opening day. It's only 4 hours for me, so I mean, I'll meet you down there.
I should.
That's right. They start on the road again next year. That's right, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's good for me. Like I said, it's only 4 hours down the road, so maybe I can actually go to an opening day. It's been since before COVID that I've gotten to go to an Angels opening day proper.
Yeah.
And the Angels haven't opened up at home since they did in 21, right?
21, I think was it.
Yeah.
But it wasn't a normal opening day, right? They were still doing like the half capacity stuff.
Yeah.
But I think our last full opening day was 2016 against the Cubs, and we got stomped. I was there that night.
Okay.
Hey, at least the Cubs won the World Series that year.
Yeah.
So, at least you lost to the eventual champs.
Sure, yeah.
So we already talked a little bit about the Mike Maddox signing. You said that you liked that. Let's talk about the Kurt Suzuki signing. Kurt Suzuki, 1 year deal, just in case you're listening to this and you're under a rock. You didn't know that Kurt Suzuki got hired. What was your initial reaction when you saw that Kurt Suzuki got hired? And then second phase of that question, what was your reaction when you saw he was only coming on a 1 year deal?
I'll answer the second part first. I mean, the 1 year deal was like kind of like that bothered me because it was almost like they were setting him up for failure immediately.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know if the lockouts like playing into that or what it is, but I was just like, that's such like an Angel thing to do. Like, I don't know. But Suzuki, at first it was just like, it was in, a little bit of indifference, but like, the more I thought about it, I'm like, I really liked Kurt Suzuki as a player. I think he's got a good baseball mind. There was before that, there was the talk about Pujols, and there was talks about Torrey Hunter and all that, and I don't know how good those guys will do. Hopefully if Pujols gets a chance with San Diego, he'll do great. I hope. I like Albert, but the more I thought about it, I've settled into being okay with it, and also a little bit optimistic, in the fact that the last time we had a catcher for a manager, he did okay with us, So like catchers usually make great managers, and it's kind of like a let's see what happens, and it's almost like kind of throw my hands up, going, okay. I mean, like, if not him, who? I mean, like at this point, like it's almost like throwing shit at the wall and seeing what sticks. And that's not meant to be derogatory towards Kurt Suzuki, because I do, like I said, he seems like a fine gentleman off the field, and I enjoyed him as a player. But there's the variables, like the unknown. We don't know how he's going to do. He's got this 1-year leash on him. I don't know how that's going to factor into how he manages long term. It's a lot of unanswered questions. I don't know what was your guys' take on it?
So Todd and I had pretty similar. Well, we weren't very happy when it happened, and I think the thing that made me the most upset was how quickly it went from Albert Pujols is out to Kurt Suzuki is in. Now, I did an episode with another one of my co-hosts, Vince, and I was all on board with the Pujols potential. I think he's going to be a great manager. I think he's going to be a phenomenal manager wherever he goes. I would like if he went to San Diego. He was just a player that had that it factor, the way he carried himself. His work ethic was unmatched. He always had a good approach at the dish. He was never overmatched. He never did too much. He wasn't afraid to pop out and advance the runners or maybe drive them in, get an RBI. And I was hoping that an approach like that would have really helped these young guys truly learn the definition of small ball and learn that small ball nowadays can still be effective. I mean, look at the Blue Jays. They just kind of thumped their way through it. I mean, they were able to put the ball over the fence, but they also weren't afraid to go station to station, play small ball. I mean, even at the end there, they were still trying to bunt the ball down the line. So, that's a brand of baseball that I still think can win in today's modern times. I do think it is possible to have a winning culture and play small ball. And I think Pujols could have definitely brought that to Anaheim. I think he would have brought some respectability to a young team looking for a leader who is a vocal leader. And for me, I don't know if Kurt Suzuki can do that. I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt, because right now I have no indication to think that he can't do that. But I still think that Pujols or Torrey Hunter, because that was another guy that was in the running, would have been better options. I just think that if you offer either of those guys a 1-year deal, you're going to get laughed out of the building and probably going to get your phone number blocked. That's probably what happened.
Yeah, I was wanting, like, if you're looking for an established guy or maybe a guy familiar with the coaching, I was thinking Javier Molina or Yadier Molina or Benji Gill. But if they weren't available, then yeah, I would have gone with Pujols or Hunter, only for the fact that give them a long-term deal, let them get some stability in the organization. And I know that those guys value hitting over strikeouts, and we just came off of setting a record for most strikeouts. So I want a contact, like Fernando said, small ball, get on base any way you can. Let's drive up those averages and put pressure on the pitching type manager. The problem is I don't know what Suzuki is as far as a manager. He may have said all the right things, but we've heard that before in press conferences. So that's where I was at. I was like you said, wait and see. But that wasn't my number one choice either.
Yeah, certainly not mine. I was honestly, I was excited at the prospect of Albert. And to your point, Fernando, he just immediately commands that respect. And that's respect that is earned. He already has it with the fans, and he certainly already has it with the players. And it's like that immediately gives him like kind of a head start over a Kurt Suzuki, who I'm not saying doesn't command that respect, but not in the way that an Albert Pujols does. You understand what I'm saying? I'm just, I'm trying to remain optimistic. I'm a Pujols guy. I still very much am an Albert Pujols fan. But it didn't happen. Suzuki got hired. We got Maddox. So it's like, okay, again, as a long-suffering Angels fan, it's like, all right, this is what we got. Let's see what we do. Is it going to be? It's we're at the point where we're saying it can't get worse. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah, I understand that the 1-year contract is probably because of the inevitable lockout that everyone keeps mentioning. But I think I would have felt a lot better about the Kurt Suzuki hiring if they would have given him a 3 to a 5-year contract.
Mhm.
I think it should have been 3 with 2 options. And because, we had Ty Buttrey on the show, he comes on pretty periodically, but he had said how hard it is to be part of a culture when the culture is continuously changing, right? Since Mike Scioscia, we had Brad Osmus, who technically, I don't want to be a smart ass, Frankie, but he was the last catcher that we had to be manager. And that was terrible.
Yeah.
But
that's how forgettable he was. I forgot completely. That Asmus area.
Yeah. 1-year contract. I think they gave him a 3-year contract, if memory serves correctly. Fired him after the first go around. Yeah, and then he brought in Joe Madden. Joe Madden was here for 2.5 seasons. That was another guy that got a 3-year contract.
Yep.
Then you got Phil Nevin on the interim, and then they gave him a 1-year contract. And then we got Ron Washington and Ray Montgomery. So this is just kind of another cog in the corporate machine is probably the best way to put it. The biggest thing that I didn't like about Kurt Suzuki is knowing that he was the special assistant to Perry Minasian for the last 4 years. When you make that kind of hiring, it reeks bootlicking house, man, right? It just does.
Yeah.
If you hire your assistant to be your manager, naturally the first thing that comes to my mind is you wanted a yes man.
Yeah, and nepotism, yeah.
Yeah, and there's really no other way to look at it. Like they could pitch it however they want, but that is what it looks like. And I hope I'm wrong. I'm an Angels fan just like you guys are. I want this team to win. I'm hoping that Kurt Suzuki is our next Mike Scioscia. We all want another Mike Scioscia. How funny is it that after 2018, we were all kind of ready to let Mike go. We were all like, okay, it's probably for the best. And now we all long for that, right? They always say, appreciate it while it's here, but eventually you're going to miss it. And, I'm so hungry for that, for those days of winning, for the days of having a respectable manager, and just actually having a culture. Hopefully Kurt Suzuki can be that guy. I think the Mike Maddox signing does bring some credibility already. We'll see who else is coming, but hopefully it's somebody else exciting because Mike Maddox is a phenomenal pitching coach. He's succeeded everywhere he's gone. And now going forward, Reed Detmers is going to be a starting pitcher again this year. I told Todd earlier off air, if he can't fix Reed Detmers after this season, I think at that point it's like, okay, well, hey, Reed Detmers obviously isn't fixable. I feel more reasonable now after Mike Maddox, works with them and tools these guys. Yeah. If he isn't able to fix them, the toys are obviously broken.
Look, and again, I'm trying to squeeze any bit of optimism I can, but I'll be honest. I consider you guys my friends. Talking to my friends about baseball and anybody that asks, and I always say, you know what? Honestly, in my heart of hearts, I don't think we do anything until Artie and Perry are out of the equation. If I'm being as completely transparent as we can be, we could talk about there's bright lights here and bright lights there. The grizzled veteran in me really thinks that until those two guys are out of the equation completely, I don't see us turning it around. And I hope I'm wrong. I hope I'm proven wrong. I hope both those gentlemen prove me wrong starting this next season. But that's kind of really where I'm at as an Angel fan. But I can compartmentalize that disdain for those gentlemen and still, pour my entire heart and soul into being an Angel fan and wanting the best for this team.
Yeah, and that's the hard part too as an Angel fan, because we've recent posts or videos that we've done about current things that are going on in the organization or outside. I can't tell you, Frankie, how it'd be one thing if it was the same fans saying, "Oh, we're out." It's different ones every time that are saying, "Hey, I'm boycotting going to games. I'm just not into them right now until this guy goes or that guy goes or the owner sells." And it's tough, man. But you can't blame them. You can't sit
Sure.
there and say, hey, man, I don't want you watching from afar. You're not a real fan. It's like, no, if they've broken your heart enough, I mean, they got to win you back. And the fact that guys like you, me, and Fernando are sticking with it, that's fine. We'll be able to celebrate twice as hard once they're good again. But
Sure.
to your point, I mean, they got to show us something to believe because they've said all the right things at times and then just done the opposite. So I'm right there with you. I'm cautiously optimistic, but that's as far as I go.
Yeah, like they always say, vote with your wallet. Don't go to games, don't buy merchandise, and that's one way to look at it. But it's like, and I kind of even tell myself that. Why, I'm done. I'm not giving this team any more of my time, my money, but I do because I enjoy baseball and I love going
Yep.
to games, and I can't help myself.
Mhm.
As much as I would like to boycott and sit on the sidelines with my arms crossed and go, nope, uh, I can't. That's not how I'm wired. I want to go to games. I want to take my family games. I want to experience it live. I love this going to the stadium. I don't want to go there, and enjoy a competitive environment. I don't want to go there and be, sitting there when we're losing by 7 runs in the, third inning. So yeah, man, it's kind of like the secret's kind of out, like you were saying, Todd. Like everybody kind of like is kind of like poking fun of like it's like everybody's in on the gag except for us.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's tough.
Do you guys see, and let's bust out the crystal balls here. Do you guys see the Angels making any kind of legitimate moves this offseason? I don't even want to say needle moving moves, but in a way to boost the team forward. Maybe not even necessarily in 2026, but for 27 and 28. Do you see them going after a pitcher that could help them take that next step forward, especially with a guy like a Mike Maddox? Or do you see them adding an outfield piece, a power lefty bat? I mean, what do you feel in your heart
I,
of hearts?
I don't see how they can't, if we're being honest.
Okay.
Again, and who or whom those free agents may be it pitchers, be it hitters, outfielders, whatever. Again, we've talked a lot about you have to start somewhere. You have to change the culture. You have to get your fan base legitimately excited, or at least give them something. Like just give us something, like we've been handed empty spoons for all these years. Like put something on that plate. Give us something, just the prospect of something. So it's like, I think again, it all starts up top. You have to do something in the offseason to create, again, I use a lot of wrestling terms and I apologize for those that listen and are into the, you got to create buzz. You got to generate buzz, before, in pro wrestling, when they're bringing in a new character, he doesn't just show up. You see vignettes, especially back in the 80s, for 6 weeks, 8 weeks. This guy's coming, this guy's coming, this guy's coming. So when that guy comes, people already kind of know who he is. They're excited. Baseball, the formula is kind of the same. Give your fan base something, give us, 2 or 3 months of, okay, we signed this guy. We got this guy. This guy's our hitting coach. Things are starting to fall into place. Maybe give us something, because we've been given nothing for so long. And again, like the particulars of who those players could be, I don't know. It's way too early to tell, but I don't see how they can't.
I was a little disappointed the Angels didn't make a move today. Now, technically, yesterday meaning Sunday, for anyone who's confused as to what day I'm talking about, was technically the first day after the World Series. But the Angels always do something immediately after the World Series. One year they traded for Cameron Maben. The next year they re-upped Justin Upton. Last year they traded for Jorge Soler. So the Angels always immediately do something, and they haven't done anything. It's been 2 days since the World Series, so I'm a little confused. I was expecting something, but there was a lot of players that were opting out of contracts. I thought it was a pretty thin free agent class, but I mean, now you got guys like Cody Bellinger that have opted out. So that'll be kind of interesting to see these guys that do opt out. Ha-Seong Kim even opted out, and I thought that was crazy. But there's a lot of money to be made in the game of baseball. And we saw a couple years ago, before the lockout, I think it only lasted like 2 weeks, but there was a lot of players that wanted to sign directly before that lockout took place. So I wonder how many of those guys want to opt out of their deals to get a long-term deal before the lockout happens.
Yeah.
But
And we'll definitely see.
Great point. Yeah.
And we'll see if the Angels can lock in on any of those players, man. I mean, it's going to be a tough sell. Like, Frankie brought up earlier, the facilities are an issue. It's no secret now. It's the ownership. And then it's not like before where the internet wasn't prevalent. Everyone knows about Artie's court cases. I think if anything, the Angels are going to, if everything goes right for Artie, there'll be a spending spree come around Christmas or before Christmas. But if not, it could be slim pickings again because he's got to survive this case and the audit. So we'll see what happens with that. And is he going to be able to nail down a TV contract? So that's all up in the air as well.
Yeah,
you saw what happened with Yusei Kikuchi and the AC.
Yeah,
the AC story.
That's again, that's something else we're battling. Not only have we not been competitive for a decade, but again, these outside factors. The stuff going on with the Tyler Skaggs stuff, the Bush League facilities, all of that. Yes, that doesn't, you can say that doesn't affect what happens on field, but in a way it does, because again, that's creating kind of that negative, downtrodden culture that we've had for far too long. And so this offseason, I think, is honestly wildly important for this franchise.
Yeah.
At this time and where we're at right now, going into the 26th season, every offseason should be treated as very important. But I think for internally and for us Angel fans, this should be a very, very important offseason.
And one more thing I got on the stadium, though, Artie is literally trying to squeeze every penny out of it. They announced there's going to be 2 more Savannah Banana games at the stadium. There's a lot of church revivals. If you drive by Anaheim Stadium, which I do every day for work, look at the parking lot. There's over 300 trailers in there. They have leased out the parking lot for a trailer company. So he's trying to make money when they're not playing right now.
Well, yeah, and then, so again, we also, in addition to hearing all the Dodger nonsense, I also had to hear oh, the Savannah Bananas sold out the Angel Stadium, and the Angels can't even do that. It's yeah, I know, and there's nothing I can say. I have no comeback. It's yep, you're right. They did.
Hey, at least the Bananas aren't afraid to go to Angel Stadium. They're afraid to go to Dodger Stadium.
Right.
Once again, they're not going next year.
So you don't blame them. It's it's the killing fields out there, man. You guys have been there. My God,
it's the purge. Yeah, it's like the purge. Hey, real quick, I want to ask you this before we get into a little bit of wrestling. World Baseball Classics coming up next year. Are you a fan? A lot of people aren't.
It's weird. I'm a huge baseball fan, huge football fan, but it's really weird. Those two sports, I've had the closest relationship my entire life. But for whatever reason, when it's not time to play those sports, I'm not interested. For example, I was never an XFL or a USFL or any football league that tried to exist when it wasn't the fall. It just didn't catch my interest. Now with the World Baseball Classic, the last one was the most baseball I've ever watched when it wasn't baseball season. And because Trout was playing and Ohtani, and I was a little more interested, so I watched. It's even hard for me to watch the Little League World Series as much as I like watching those guys play. But it's just weird. It's I watch baseball, from the spring until the fall when it stops. But I did watch that more than I'd watched anything else, and of course in the end there I got really interesting with Japan and the USA. But I'll probably watch again, and maybe I'll pay a little more attention. But I can't say I'm a devotee of the World Baseball Classic normally.
Well, they're getting you there slowly. I think that's why it was. I think that's how it was with me too. I got into it more the last time around, just because of the national pride or the fact they were in the title game, and you just had the countries putting together better squads too. So it wasn't just the top 4. So
another thing, again, as much as we all love baseball here, and I do love baseball, it's a long season, dude.
Yep.
Yeah.
And even if you're eating filet mignon every night, you're going to get sick of that eventually.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Like I sometimes I enjoy that break. So, it's like having that long season, especially this long off season with these long games and this game 7. It's like it seems like the season was never ending. So it's like, sometimes for me, I do get a little bit of fatigue. But having said that, come spring, I'm going to be counting down the days until pitchers and catchers, report.
Yep. I like it just because it happens about 2 weeks into spring training. The first 2 or 3 spring training games, I'm glued to the TV. It's like, yeah, baseball's back. After like the first week of spring training, it's like, all right, this shit's boring. You know what I mean?
Right.
I don't want to see, with all due respect to John McDonald, Angels fan, remember John McDonald. I don't want to see John McDonald play 7 innings.
Right.
I don't want to see those guys who
I'm pretty much the
long in
same way.
play.
Yeah.
It's fun to see the young guys play, like Christian Moore getting 6-7 innings.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff's fun. But once they start taking those guys out, and it really is just the scrubs, that's when it's like, okay.
When you got Kingery and Cavadas as your cleanup hitters, you're like, nah, I'm out.
Yeah,
right. I'm the same way. Every time spring training, I'm like, I just want baseball on my television. I'll sit down and I'll look at the lineup. I'm like,
never mind.
I'll watch an inning or two, and it's like, all right, no,
honey, I'm gonna go do some lawn work.
Yeah, I'll keep the game on just so I have that. I have the atmosphere still happening, and I can hear the sounds of the game, but I can't say I'm sitting there invested for 9 innings. Certainly.
That's true. Now, switching gears, Frankie, I've been dying to ask you this. Huge wrestling fan. I remember watching these guys debut on Shotgun Saturday Night a long time ago in those ugly plaid pants, the Hardy Boys. Always been one of my favorite tag teams. I know you got a good relationship with them in your time in all the venues. But how was that watching them in their final match versus the Dudleys and them get the for all? Well, at least you can explain to some of the fans that don't know the boots at the end.
Yeah. I mean, again, those guys are all, I've known all of those gentlemen for, over 20 years, consider them all friends. Probably closest with Matt and Bubba of the 4 of those guys. Not that I'm not close with Devon and Jeff, but, I talk to Matt and Bubba socially outside of wrestling. We have a lot of things in common, similar interests. Me and Bubba are into the same music, the same, both Jack Daniels guys. We have a lot of, we've had a lot of good nights. Anyway, it was one of those nights where I was real busy that night, bound for glory. I had a lot to do. I was in a couple matches and part of a big angle at the end, but it was one of those nights where I was like, wow, this is special. These 4 gentlemen essentially ending their feud and putting to rest, like, a game-changing, style of wrestling. Like, these guys, invented this, TLC era of wrestling we're living in.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was like, I was like, this is going to be special. Unfortunately for me, the days of shows, I can't sit and watch entire matches because I just have so much going on in my own head that I can't really, I like to really focus. But I knew it was going to be special. And I remember talking to Bubba, and I was just like, hey man, this is, I'm really looking forward to this. And, I said, no, you guys are going to kill it. And he goes, Matt, there's going to be tears. There's going to be tears. And I'm like, okay. Yeah. And I didn't, I assumed that Matt and Jeff were going to win the match. Just based on where they are as a team, currently still going strong. Bubba and Devon have really tapered off on their like in-ring stuff lately. So I kind of knew the outcome, but I didn't want to know anything else, watching it. It was emotional, watching it after the fact when I'm not, in the zone and, thinking of what I have to do, just watching it, as a guy that grew up watching these guys and became friends with them and knowing what they did for the business, and the symbolism of, Bubba and Devon, not only, in pro wrestling, you leave your boots in the ring in your last match. That is a tradition that's been around for years, but for them to take their boots off and hand them to the Hardys, like, you retired us. It's one of those moments that's going to live forever. What a fitting ending. I think they told a beautiful story. All of those guys, what they can't do like they once did athletically. They
Mhm.
can certainly do that cerebrally now. All four guys are, in addition to being great wrestlers and great athletes, great storytellers, and that's what we're in. We're in the storytelling business. Yeah, and what a moment, like there was, like yourself, there's, dare I say, millions of people that grew up watching these teams compete,
Yep.
and you know, and a lot of us are now adults, and we have kids of our own. To see these guys put on that type of performance and to do that, really cool. But it's sad. It's the end of an era. It's finishing that book and closing it up. But you know what? It's like baseball. It's very wrestling can be the most romantic and beautiful thing. And this is one of those instances where it was. And
I'm
I,
getting that bittersweet vibe from you right now.
yeah, it really is. It really is. But at the same time, you don't want to see your favorite anything become a parody of itself.
Yeah, that's
You don't
true.
want to see your favorite. You don't want to see your favorite band become a shell of themselves. You don't want to see your favorite boxer, your favorite UFC fighter, your favorite wrestler. You want to see them while they're still at the top of their game. And these guys put on a match that proved they were all at the top of their game, and they went out. And I respect the hell out of them for doing that, because I know I'm going to have to make that decision at some point. And I hope that I can handle it with such poise and grace that Bubba and Devon did. Like Bubba's favorite band is Kiss, and like he just had to watch Kiss, hang it up. Well, for the time being, last year. So I can only imagine the emotions those guys, were going through and they're still going through. But it was a beautiful thing. Yeah, bittersweet is the great way to sum it up, man.
So I feel like the question I'm going to ask is going to be very similar to that, because I want to ask about that AJ Styles versus John Cena match. But before I get into that, I want to take a second to just compliment what you guys are doing over at TNA right now. Dare I say, this is probably, once again, the hottest I've seen this product in a long time. I mean,
Yep.
TNA's been hot, in various time periods. But right now, I mean, TNA is blown up. You guys are starting to get bigger venues again, right? You guys just had done quite a few arena shows.
Yep.
So, I mean, kudos to the overall company. I think it has a lot to do with the wrestling. It obviously has a lot to do with the storytelling, because, that's the beauty of the sports entertainment industry, right? Not only are you guys competing at the highest levels, you guys are in every way, shape, or form athletes, but also athletes that tell stories. And in my opinion, that's what I always love about wrestling, because wrestling is all about moments. Baseball is all about moments. Yep. You go on YouTube and you like watch highlights of stuff. I don't know if you guys are anything like me, but sometimes I'll go on YouTube and just maybe look at clips from when I was a child, and I see like the 400th home run of Vladimir Guerrero. And hell, the earliest memory I have is there was one time my dad told me to turn off the TV, and it was Padres versus Mariners, bases loaded. Dontrell White, Rondell White, that was the name I was looking for, hit a walk-off grand slam for the Padres to win the game. And I remember getting in trouble because my dad walked in because I was going crazy in the room. So, you think about where you were in these moments, and wrestling has that same kind of, like you said, romanticism about it. But yeah, kudos to what you guys are doing at TNA. The product's hot. I can only imagine you're probably having the time of your life working for the company right now.
Yeah, thank you, man. And yeah, it was an unbelievable year. We still got a few more big shows to go, but probably easily our most successful year in well over a decade. Selling out pretty much everywhere we go, running bigger venues. The attention we've garnered from those who maybe were sleeping on TNA. The relationship we have with WWE certainly has helped us. Just one of those things, we've just been firing on all cylinders, but now is not the time to let up. We got to put our foot on the gas and make 26, even better, bigger and better. But yeah, it's a lot of. I'm having the time of my life. This was probably the funnest year I've had in the pro wrestling business. I've been doing this 27 years, and I've had a lot of really fun years. But this one is, if not number one, 1A. So yeah, it's really fun. It's really fun to be a part of this company and to be a focal point of the company, with what we're doing and what we got planned for next year.
Yeah, you should be excited. Like Fernando said, at the height of your at TNA, and then you're one of the limelights every night, dude.
Yeah.
You're one of the featured dudes, man, if not the guy. So
Yeah.
that's pretty cool. But I imagine it's like a ton of pressure on you too, because like you said, you got to be focused, you got to be in the right
Yeah.
everything.
Plus, you're objectively from, and don't be humble. You are on a lot of TNA Mount Rushmores, and
He is.
you are. A
He
lot
is.
of people mention your name on the TNA Mount Rushmore. So, I mean, that's
Yeah.
got to be pretty cool, also.
It's super humbling, dude. I mean, I'm a guy from a small town that just wanted to be a wrestler. I just had a lot of passion and drive and love for this industry. And if people want to put me on that, I mean, that's the beautiful thing about fan bases and all sports and entertainment. Those discussions are had and they're fun. Hell, that's why we're, three of us, we're just baseball fans at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So, that's what's cool about it. And if people want to have those conversations, and just, the fact that I'm even considered, when you look at the guys that have been in this company over the years, and the Kurt Angles and the Jeff Jarrett's and the Stings and the AJ Styles and the Joes and the Chris Daniels and so for me to even be mentioned in the same breath with those gentlemen is super humbling, man. That stuff's never lost on me, man. That's super cool, and I love that the fans have those opinions, because God knows I'm a fan of a lot of things, and I have my Mount Rushmores, and I love talking about that. So that's super cool, man. That's very, very, very gratifying, and it makes every second of these past 27 years worth it.
Well, you've definitely earned it. I got a real hypothetical for you, real quick, Frankie. Let's just say the Angels were in the postseason, or dare I say, the World Series next year. Could you convince TNA brass on your intro to the ring to wear an Angels jersey? You know how, like, sometimes, like, Cena will be in the hometown of a certain, like say, for instance, even if you're a heel at the time, could you wear that in the opposing city if it worked out that way?
I probably not. I don't think I'm going out on a limb and saying this, that I have a good enough relationship with those in charge and have enough creative freedom that I could do that whenever I wanted.
Oh, that's awesome.
I think that, I don't think anybody would ever have a problem with that. Like, I think I'm comfortable enough in my role in saying that I could 100% do that and would 100% do that. Yeah, man, I thought you were going to ask me, like, Game 7's in Anaheim and you got a booking. Where are you going to go to?
You're sounding sick. I can't.
Yeah, all of a sudden Frankie's got a cold. We need to replace
it.
it.
I know. Yeah. No, I would. I've never pulled the trigger on it, but I've always toyed with the idea of having Angels themed gear. I've mocked up a couple ideas, but I've never really pulled the trigger on it. That's something that could still happen. But
when we get an Anaheim show.
Yeah, I would 100% would rock an Angels jersey on the way to the ring. Yeah, man.
Oh, that'd be sick. Or I think the greatest heel thing would be if somehow you guys were like in crypto the night after the Angels swept. Come down with the Angels.
That would be a no-brainer. I would 100%. I would want anything that's going to anger a Dodger fan. Oh, I would 100% be on board. I would go to the ring with the intention of starting a riot. 100%.
I love it.
Yeah, it's much easier when there's real hatred there.
Oh, yeah.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
So, you brought up AJ Styles already. This is my last question. And I saw what you said on Instagram. For anyone who doesn't follow Frankie, make sure you follow him and all of his social medias. We'll let him plug that in a second. But that AJ Styles and John Cena match, a lot of people said it wasn't even going to happen. The fans kind of demanded it. It did happen. I, as a wrestling fan, am happy it did. I'm sure you are as well. Now, I'm not going to show that match to somebody who's like never watched wrestling before. And they're like, well, hey, show me a good match. But for somebody who was a true wrestling fan, you said so in your post, it was an absolute love letter to wrestling. It was one of those moments where you think about where you were for that match. It was poetic. It was beautiful. It was everything that and I'm sure you love about wrestling It was so well done. Everybody was teasing it because they were like, well, there's no storyline. It's just these two guys fighting. And AJ came out the week before and said, we don't need a storyline. And he was right. You've admitted in the past that you don't get to watch as much wrestling as, as you would like to, because, you're a busy guy as it is. But it does seem like you went out of your way to watch this match. What was your true feeling about it?
Yeah, when it comes to modern stuff, the contemporary wrestling, I don't watch because there's just so much of it and I'm around it so much, again, going back to being fatigued, like you get tired of chocolate cake after a while. But that match, I knew it was happening. I was in Boston. My family was with me. My son and my wife came with me. My son is, in the last year became a massive wrestling fan, so he wanted to watch it. So we watched it in our hotel room on, I think, his iPad. And I kind of knew what was, AJ and I still talk regularly, and he had called me a couple of days before the match. And, for anybody that didn't watch the match, both guys kind of paid tribute to their history. Cena's doing moves that, made famous by the guys he was, in rivalries with. AJ did the same thing. So AJ did one of my signature moves, my fade to black, my finisher. And he called me a couple of days before and we were talking, and he said he had asked if he could do first of all, he doesn't have to ever ask me. He's got my permission, but he asked about doing a different move. And I said, of course. And we were talking about some other things. So I was expecting that move. But when he used the fade to black, I was like, oh, he went with that. Okay, cool. But yeah, that's how good those two guys are. They don't need a storyline. And those guys both have so much equity with the fan base that crowd, was eating out of the palm of their hands. Great match. Again, it was just a great love letter to pro wrestling. A great final match for those two guys who I have a tremendous amount of respect for. People may or may not know, John and I started early on together, and we were buds out here in SoCal and traveled up and down the roads together. And I worked with him a lot. And I've always said his best asset is his work ethic, because that guy outworked everybody in the room, no matter where he was. And AJ is, what can I say that hasn't been said about him? He's just a phenomenal wrestler, phenomenal human being. I'm glad I went out of my way to watch it. It was excellent. It was wonderful. And I'm glad that those guys got to share that moment together, because going back to what you were saying, this business is all about moments. And for those guys to have that, that's locked in eternity, and that's there for forever. And I'm glad it is.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
Well said.
for anyone who's a true wrestling fan, I think it was a 5-star classic. You know what I mean? It's one of those where, like I said, it was amazing from beginning to end. So, thank you for answering that. Frankie, where can our listeners follow you if they don't already?
Yeah, on Twitter or X or whatever we're calling it these days, Frankie Kazarian, and Instagram, Frankie Kazarian _official. Those are the two that I'm most active. Again, it's some wrestling talk, a lot of music, a lot of cigars, a lot of baseball talk, especially, well, not so much anymore, but, stuff like that. But yeah, please follow me there on, I try to keep it entertaining and try to be very inviting, even though, you'll get an occasional rage tweet like I put out after the World Series. But, those are few and far between with me. I try to be, for the most part, very, very positive on all those platforms.
Absolutely. He's a good follow, so check him out.
Todd, anything in closing, sir?
No, just to appreciate the time again, and we look forward to maybe hanging out again. I know we saw you. I got to hook up with you when Toronto came to town earlier in the season.
Yep.
So maybe we'll do that again, or you can come to one of the softballs if
we'll
games.
definitely. Yeah, the schedule hasn't lined up to where I could do. I really wanted to do the softball this year, and I had a show that day. So no, we'll definitely make it happen, man. Definitely make it happen, and we'll. I look forward to talking. Hey, hopefully, I'm talking to you guys in the spring, and we're previewing what's going to be an awesome season. That's what I'm hoping.
That is the hope.
Yep. Yeah, we'll definitely have Frankie back on right before the season starts for sure, if he's up for it. So
100%. Anytime, guys.
On behalf of all of us here at Halos of the Infield, thank you guys so much, and we'll see you guys next time. Bye, everybody.